This is WEBURLESQUE.
This is Antonio Amor.
This is Sweaty Eddie.
This is Serafina Walder.
This is Esmeralda May.
Hi, everyone. My name is Harlem Knight, and you are listening to WEBURLESQUE Season 7. Shimmy, 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 shimmy.
This is WEBURLESQUE podcast. I'm your host, Victor Devon, and through the miracle of fiber optics, I get to reconnect with performers all over the world. And this is one who I connect with all the time because we are constantly in each other's DMs, saying something to each other, asking how they feel about something or other. They are one of my biggest champions in the world of burlesque, and I'm so delighted to bring back to the podcast Bella Sin. Hello, hello.
Hola.
Festival producer, makeup mogul, instructor, educator. How was your Halloween season?
Oh my God, I'm sitting down. What is life? It's so hard to sit down. For me. It's because as we have a Hispanic Heritage Month straight to Halloween, and I'm just like, what is happening right now? I haven't had a free weekend since September
2006.
probably, but like I haven't had a free weekend for a while, so I'm just like going into November and preparing for our last show at the Beachland, and then our last show of the season, which is incredible that we're even here, that we're the first burlesque show in a season of theater to come back since 1950s at Cleveland Public Theater with Tisa season. So I'm still like, what? So of course I'm gonna make the Yuletime gay, as one would, you know.
Well, you also you're public that you're also a parent while you're in burlesque, so you have at least one more day, don't you? Or do you do the trunk or treat? Have you done that already, or you still have to go out for Halloween?
Oh no, we go out on Halloween and let him have his day of fulfillment. And we make sure that we take an extra bag so we can go ahead and have some more chocolate as well. But we let him do his thing, and unfortunately our street does not get many trick-or-treaters. But behind us, the development behind us gets a ton, so that's where we go. Which it's always great to walk around. This year we're all doing Ghostbusters. I still apparently am not able to be Stave Puft Marshmallow Man. I'm like, that's my part, but he said it was too scary. So, of course, I think my child knows me best, that he's not going to let me walk around and steal his thunder as a giant inflatable. So there we are.
No, it's his night.
It's his night.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to. So this is coming out night before Halloween. I'm not sure if we're going to have. So the husband and I are in a new living space. I don't really know.
Congratulations.
It's very exciting, very happy. And I don't know. There are kids in our neighborhood, but I don't know because we're behind a gate, so I'm not really sure. But we have the chocolate, and frankly, if the chocolate has to be eaten by us, we will take that for the team. We will
support you. We will support you completely.
I'll just throw it in the Silver Tusk winter bag. So I'll just say here.
Oh my God, I'm so excited about those bags, and you and I know why.
Yes. I'm very, very happy that that's coming. So folks who are listening, nominations for Silver Tusk Awards will begin November 8th. You can go to silvertuskawards.com. If you're listening to this after that, check out, see either who the final nominations were or when the show is or who won, depending. But yeah, it's our 8th year Silver Tusk Awards, and it takes a village, and I appreciate the folks that are part of that village.
I love the village.
Now, folks who want to learn more about Bella Sin's origin story, you can go back to episode 68. I'll link to it in the footnotes. But what I want to talk about, based on your recommendation, is what you're doing now, because you're celebrating, what is it, 20 years in the
Yeah,
burlesque
20 years
scene?
of burlesque. Yeah.
Congratulations, and I'm so
Thank
sorry.
you.
But
How I feel too.
it's one of the it's funny. This is one of those scenes, and maybe musical theater people get through it, maybe other dance community things. It was so much like, good for you. So sorry.
It's almost like how much have you seen? It's like, somebody that's like in the field of like nursing or like paramedics or like public servants, and you'll be like, how much have you seen? I was like, I've seen some shit.
You've seen some shit.
Seen some shit.
And just
I
as many
talk about
body
that shit
parts.
now. Yeah, and it's like I'm just like I'm still here. What? And I'm like, okay, but I got stories and I'm scarred, and let me talk to you about those.
Well, one of your recent projects is referred to as Decolonizing Burlesque. Can
Correct.
you give me a snippet of really what the word decolonizing means for you in this context? Because I know that it's sort of starting to get co-opted by a lot of other industries. So what does it mean really for this?
So essentially, we're trying to go ahead and put out there that whitewashing of burlesque history was incredibly and utterly like horrible, and we're trying to bring out there the take out the colonial aspect of the idealism of white-centered mythos within the burlesque community in burlesque history, which affects the burlesque industry. So essentially, we're trying to go ahead and get the listener, the viewer, the person, the learner to go ahead and learn a diverse program of burlesque history, acknowledging burlesque performers of color and other industry professionals that were in that community, not just centered into people of color, but also LGBTQIA people, because we, of course, saw the BIPOC Gate 2023 this year. And it's more like it's re-education of people in the way that they only focused on white-centered ideology of burlesque Americana that's based on white supremacy. So, and this class, in essence, is decolonizing the mindset that only a certain look, a certain color, a certain type, a certain size, a certain gender of people were in burlesque community. Because when I ever hear like burlesque industry, because whenever I hear it's like, oh, there was just like white skinny people in burlesque and they were all women, and it was matriarchal. And I was like, get your toxic feminism out of me, my area, my face, because like that's also those like toxic feminism is also very rooted in white-centered ideology of colonial idealisms of patriarchal outlooks and points. And I think that when people take this class or do this class or even start decolonizing themselves, even if they're not POC, you start seeing the world a little bit different, and it kind of ruins you a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Nothing can be enjoyed the same way before, but it's like almost this joy because you start discovering these new historical figures and stuff like that,
Well, it's challenging, and I don't know where we got to. I mean, I know that obviously we see this a lot in political discourse where people who of a specific ideology do not want to even acknowledge the spectrum of gender, don't want to acknowledge white supremacy, don't want to acknowledge privilege, or dealing with the past, the ghosts of the past, or frankly the rotting corpses of the past, because it's really that fresh. And it's so weird because a lot of the same people who want to ignore that still believe that John F. Kennedy Jr. is alive. Like there's still like that kind of like, if you're going to buy into conspiracy theory as well as not trusting the government, not trusting the doctors, not trusting this, well then why do you think you know so much? Why would you possibly assume that things are so binary? And it's just sort of so frustrating. It's just weird how people refuse to make things white and black and white, and yet demand black and white. But yeah, it's challenging.
My favorite quote that I actually used in the class was a TikToker that I love watching is Denisha Carter. And she said people's opinion of the world is often a confession of their character, and their perception of the world is often a reflection of them.
Mm,
And I think that's so honest in the way that people are wanting to talk about history right now and the eradication of all these things that happen. It was just like, and also the understanding we're not trying to go ahead and ruin this ideology of the perfect white burlesque performer that was out there. We're not trying to discredit them. We're just trying to go ahead and fix history because I'm sorry, we keep using characters like Gypsy Rosalie, which is the last time that I'll refer to her as that name. She's going to be Miss Rosalie from this point forward because we know that that's a slur. But it's like people keep saying that they were the biggest burlesque dancer in the world. And I'm over here like, have you ever heard of Josephine Baker? Let me tell like it's almost like Mandela effect because people don't understand that they existed in the same time,
yeah.
the same time frame. And I'm like wildly confused on why the problem of this happened. But like the reason that this even came to me as a class or as a workshop and now a college talk that I'm giving, it was because I was watching Behind the Burlesque by Leslie Zemeckis, and one of the researchers was like, yeah, there was like, performers of color that had, they were very niche, but they were not as successful as this white burlesque Americana girl next door. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because in all my research was like the Blackening in Michigan, packed Latin quarters, packed Cotton Club, packed.
Yeah.
Of course, we can unpack those things later, and we do in the class because of romanticizing certain spaces. But like a lot of these spaces were heavily sold out night after night after night. These people were international. They were going everywhere. They were in magazines. They were in movies. They were in. There's this idealism, and I think we see it in Top 50 a lot, that it's almost like the United States is the only one that matters in a conversation about burlesque and burlesque history. And I was like, no. Comprehensive world burlesque history. And in this class, we actually go through it. We go as deep as looking into ballroom culture. We go as deep into looking into and discussing trans people and trans non-binary people and folks in entertainment and in burlesque. Because a lot of people are like, oh, burlesque was just this. I was like, no, we had a variety show. And in the variety show, it existed so many different people. So like, yeah, essentially like this weird thing where people only spend like maybe a class, if lucky, on burlesque legends in burlesque history is so wild to me because that's what it took for me to understand the industry and the actual language and how it was created. So I think I'm just like a very curious person. I just wanted to find out, but also like I had to find myself in history to know that I belonged in it. And I don't want to ever see somebody be like, oh, there's nobody that looks like me. And that be used against them because like literally I was being told that there was no Mexican people in burlesque and I shouldn't be in it. It was a white girl thing. And I was like, pardon the fuck me? I don't think that's right. So call me a Sagittarian, just going against the wave.
Well, it's also because again, it's so complicated, and I know that no one wants to feel scolded when they're learning or when they're when they're challenged with acknowledging history and acknowledging the present, frankly. But even when it comes back to recognizing the people of color, specifically the Black and Latinx folks that were in the scene, a lot of them had to assimilate. So we also then have that additional layer of people who were not either exoticized for their culture. So they had to do bastardized version of native dance or bastardized version of native looks to sell to white audiences, or they did authenticity for their own culture that were not allowed to be desegregated. So it's and then you have folks like Lena Horne, who was passing. We have that concept of passing because she was able to make waves, but she still took her like 35 years to make those waves. And
this is the thing that we argue, me and my historian friends argue, is like it wasn't look like passing back then. There was things created and pressure created during the civil rights movement and other movements in entertainment to have people of color on stage. And it was almost like, well, they'll entertain us. So, but like they were seeing, patrons were asking. That's the thing. Like patrons would go to Europe, patrons would go to South America, Central America, the Caribbean, and see all these beautiful performers of color and wonder, like, well, why are they not here? So it was also people of color creating their own spaces because, like, who else is, if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be us. And like, what I try to tell people when we're looking into history, and we start this question with the workshop, who was the first burlesque legend you learned about or heard of? And I make everybody think about it. I was like, throw it in the chat. And it's most white legends.
Yeah.
Like they didn't specifically be told anything different ever existed, because also of the systems of belief that we have within POC communities, like you have to go to church, you can't be stripping, you can't be boozing, respectability politics in between us, and like all these other things that because of Catholicism and colonization, we continue to go ahead and have those ideologies of certain shameful behaviors when we knew that was not a thing, But I think when we are challenging burlesque Americana, which like I said, is founded in like white supremacy ideals, we start seeing how the work of Black folks, brown folks, Asian folks, indigenous folks in our industries was so affected by historical accounts now, because back then they were just seen as Black. And if they were mixed, like Eartha Kitt was mixed, and they like one end didn't like, it was like she was not enough for either, because she had a little bit of each. She was not enough for either, and it kind of sort of happens to mixed people still now. But is what I tell people is like, when we're looking into past things in the past, not only are we going to find incredibly aggravating words, which it's hard as a researcher to see them and read them. I don't pronounce them or anything, but like you have to reach in to find keywords and then understand that back then, yeah, it was an incredibly different time, but that incredibly different time was problematic, and it doesn't need to be continuing that way. But we are acknowledging the stuff that happened in the past and how we can go ahead and offer a solution to erasure and to properly get all these burlesque schools, get all these burlesque programs, get all these burlesque performers that didn't take history to understand history, and maybe erasure will stop, because we are even seeing modern day erasure right now. Like it's kind of like a tiered program kind of things, because like I ask about common lingo burlesque history and people are like, oh, the first one is like Rosalie, Sally Rand, and maybe if I'm lucky, I'll get Tempest Storm in there. Sometimes it's just Dita Von Teese or the movie Burlesque, which is the vein of my existence. But like, I don't often hear like about Marinka, Jaden Wall, and Josephine Baker, Lottie the Body, which was like when I get to talk about Lottie the Body in Detroit, like she was truly an ambassador of Detroit Motown movement. Like she was fucking iconic. But like we don't learn those histories, because I honestly feel like even like knowing that we have the legend Fanny Annie before she passed away, people didn't mention her a lot. And it was because she was a plus size burlesque performer. So like all these people have this ideology of what we're supposed to look like and are, that is not historically accurate. And the only reason it was historic and like they learn it that way is because the people that had the keys were white cis academics that wrote the books, and that's another thing that we're gonna get into. It's just like the people that collect most of burlesque memorabilia are white cis men, and mostly straight, and they treat it as if it was notches in their belt. They were unfulfilled, almost obsessive, almost as if this was the one thing that they got to have from that one person, that they over sexualized and over like it was not worship, it was almost
fetishization.
it's worse. It's almost like if they could have kept them in the basement tied up for them forever, they would have. That's how it feels. Because literally, I've rescued collections in the Midwest 100% still from cis white het men. And when I go in, the wives are bitter against it. And, like I get to have a little conversation with them because they kind of look at me as like, what are you doing? Like, and then I explained to them, I was like, this was never the woman's fault. It was your husband. They had a very unhealthy relationship with sexuality and wanted to own things that were not his. And then a lot of things make sense for them. I go in and I bought out full collections where thankfully I have some of the stuff that I keep for myself, and some other, most if not all, is going to be with a couple of my independent clients that I work with to rescue these collections. But like, I have seen so much stuff in these letters, even that burlesque performers write. And it was this obsession about like the lipstick prints and the cards. A lot of them are laminated. Like people had like underwear in a very neat, like suction bag, so it would not lose anything. Like there was costumes that some men kept bedside. And I was just like, the hell? So like, first of all, I asked if they were clean because I was going with gloves and but it was just like, it's essentially all those men that wrote these books, that wrote these stories and wrote a lot of the stuff. And then white academia women with this ideology of feminism, which I don't think a lot of them knew that what they were doing was inherently going to be harming something in status. But like even the eradication of Tony Midnight, which was one of the most famous costumers for the Jewel Box Review, which was the all drag show that started in Harlem and then went around the world. Even they like Tony Midnight made so many costumes for burlesque performers, and yet we're only hearing about Gussie and like a couple of other people, which is confusing to me because when we even talked to Big Carol, and Big Carol had a ton of costume experience that he made, and again, LGBTQ here for the Alphabet Mafia that kept the show running. It's not far from what we have now running, but I think that there's this ideology that burlesque in the United States only presented white center shows in theaters that were segregated. And I think a lot of performers are still using that outdated terminology to continue to like segregate, lock access, and continue to eradicate movements of sexual identity and sexual discovery to people of color and people of LGBTQ and people of size, because they think that this is their history when it's our history. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, when you were constructing, we've referred to this as a class. Let's quickly say how people can access that. So what is the format and how do people acquire this?
So, actually, because I'm so very tired of continuing to hear people saying that, like they don't have the money or they don't have the time or they don't have the wants, or every single excuse in the book has been given to me for people to learn. So on November 18th at 3 p.m. EST USA, Decolonizing Burlesque History is going to be given as a free Zoom class. And there's an invite already up on Facebook. I'm going to be throwing everything out on my social media as well as in CLE, Cleveland Burlesque Academy, on Instagram, like Ohio Burlesque Festival, Cleveland Burlesque. And I've asked a lot of my peers to be like, if I do this for free, because we can hold like 300, 400 people in our Zoom. If I do this for free, would you take it? Just a class for free, literally, for you to take to learn history. It's like about 90 minutes to 2 hours or so. What would it like if this is what it would take for me to give free labor for people to understand what we're trying to do right now to stop like current erasure? Like, we'll get to that, but like I think we're doing this for free. And then I have a couple of classes that I give on decolonizing burlesque, and it's like donation based because for this one I released it for free before. I like sometimes I pull it back when I'm gonna go give a speech because I'm asked to. So like also it may become a book. Yeah. Somebody reached out to me and I have a meeting with them in mid-November to help me write the epic of questioning a lot of these like ideologies. And one of the historians that I talked to a lot that has actually been felicitating connections and stuff like that is Dr. Lady J Davenport, drag historian. I wish that somebody could listen to our conversations on certain occasions because we go into really good tangents about historical archiving, along with Darby Fox from Philosophy Museum. Because like if you hear me and my like Constantinople as well, they're a burlesque performer that is also they actually work for their day job. They salvage history of Indigenous people. So like between all of us, if you sit down and listen to our conversations, you're gonna be like, "What?" To be a fly on the wall. God knows, I hope you pack lunch because we can really catch a breath on that. But it's just like you hear us talk so passionately about the necessity of these things. But like, maybe it become a book, maybe not, maybe something that is continued teaching. But like, I think even calling a class is at this point, like maybe not the right thing to call it. And I don't know what to call it because it could be a presentation. It could be like, there's so much information here.
It's a project, really. Like it's so it's multimedia because it's also live. You have video format. There's an audio component and there's so much documentation. So if it does become a book, not only will you have the opportunity to contextualize, but you'll also, in theory, have all of these photography and other media that you can incorporate to show your sources, essentially.
That's the one thing that I had to cover so much more of was sourcing. And thankfully, when the pandemic came, that we were scrambling to find a way to keep ourselves occupied. And I know that I had a lot on my plate, but like one of this really developed so much more there because there were so many diversity and equity classes and also all these free historical classes from all these like colleges. You bet your butt that I got in there and I was like, signs up for free class from Harvard, let's go. Stanford, let's go. And I'm such a big learner person. Also, like I need more space for books. Fancy Feast released theirs and I happened to get it on in a contest and I finished it and I was just like, where am I gonna put it? My comic books are the ones that are probably gonna go. But the release also is like of so much right now with burlesque history, none of it's still being centered in POCs. I mean, like when this comes out, I hope that at this point I kind of just sort of see it as taking a magnifying glass to a section of burlesque industry that is not talked about enough or talked about at all, and kind of correcting or salvaging and kind of healing burlesque historical archival. Because I know like Leslie Cummins from Leslie Cunningham, and they wrote the book about their grandmother being a dancer, a shake dancer and burlesque performer in New York. I met them at was it Beehive or was it Burleycon? It was Burleycon last year. And they got inspired by just talking to their elder and then archiving all this stuff for their elder. Their book is called Brown Skin Showgirls, I believe.
Brown Skin Showgirls, a photographic collection. Yep.
There. So that was one of the first books I found that was like focused and Black burlesque. Besides the work of Bibi Bardot, which become a member of their Patreon if anybody can hear me, because you're gonna get such good Black burlesque history and shake dance history from there. But like, I think this is a focal point where we're even discussing theater differently for Black folks and brown folks, because like a lot of people focus on minstrel show. Why focus on minstrel show? You can go ahead and talk about minstrel show, and as a non-Black person, I understand the privilege that it is to even talk about it and how careful one has to be trained to it. But like, I decided instead of talking about minstrel right straight in, I talked about the rich fiber and background of Black theater, like the William Alexander Brown, which did the African Grove Theater in 1816. Amazing writer. And people did not want education for people of color because education meant power. And they didn't want theater because they were showcasing that they were good theatrical people, and like the
their stories at their time, on their at their terms,
yeah. And then on top of that, like when I tell people, I was like, "Oh, do you know about Karamu House?" And they're like, "What?" I was like, "That's the longest running Black-owned like Black theater in the country. Started in 1915 in Cleveland." And people forget that Cleveland is like super old. I was like, did you like when I started my presentation on burlesque history of Cleveland, which I've given to like our local tourist association and multiple other colleges, mind you, with the professors that taught the things that I took from and didn't even know that happened, which is really funny. But like when I tell people, I was like, did you guys know that John Wilkes Booth was doing theater in Cleveland? And like Cleveland what was like, I think Academy of Music, and Lincoln came to Cleveland, and John Wilkes Booth had to leave Cleveland because he had another play. But in one like fortuitous thing of life extension, Abraham went to the play that he was supposed to be at in Cleveland. And I was like, oh my God, that could have happened here.
That was some sliding doors shit right there.
Yeah. And I was like sitting here going like, FML, like, are you serious? Nobody's talking about this. Nobody's talking about it.
And yet we keep getting the movies like constantly remade and remade and remade. Come on, people.
Yeah,
like, let's get these stories redone.
Can we get that one in a movie?
Hey there, this is Victor Devon, and I don't actually want to talk to you about Green Chef. I don't really want to talk about mattresses or Squarespace or even BetterHelp, and I'm sure they're all great, but I would really prefer not to tack on ads for these and other companies in the middle of Season 7, WeBurlesque podcast episodes, or any of the other series that appear on the network. You can help me out by avoiding doing that by throwing a few dollars to the Patreon or via Venmo, PayPal, or Cash App via the links in this description. It'll really help me out. I am abundantly grateful to our current Patreon subscribers. That would be Curly Bright, Bella LeBlanc, Oliver Swisky, Bear Anatomy, Sebastian Crane, Logan Laveau, Joyce Phipps, Andrea Barra, Alex Colode, Will Britches, Amy Blair, Stormageddon, Emma Story, Rex Halligan, Lori, Miss Sprawling Beauty, and Jacourtney. Thank you so much. You can also find us at patreon.com/WeBurlesque, or go to the show notes and find any of the methods to pay me digitally. Thank you so much.
But it's like when I figured that out, because we were talking about like Emonia Lewis, and we are talking about different like queer people that were even here, like because we had drag queens back in the day in the Cleveland Academy of Music. It was hilarious because it's like Francis was known for having 400 pieces of lace, and back then 400 pieces of lace meant that they had a lot of clothes. And that's how he lived as a female impersonator, as the old world of female impersonator, now known as drag entertainer. But it was just like when you're sitting here and like talking about that, and it was much older than people think, and like you start finding yourself in history is like freaking hilarious. But I was like, even the discussion what I laugh is like even the discussion about post-Civil War entertainment and how the Kaplan players were so big in Black theater and how this really influenced like the Apollo Theater in Harlem and how like there was all these little bursts of influential Black entertainment. And like when we even look in Latin burlesque pioneers, that's just another class that I take. We take a look in the South America, Central America, Mexico, and the Caribbean. We see how much entertainment survived there and how it's already established and it's still there. And currently, like I do believe like the Mexican burlesque scene is catching up really quickly and it's freaking iconic. Shout out to Miss Mexicanas over there. We see you, we hear you. But like the Lirio Tropical has hosted Icons of Burlesque in Mexico. They got it going on. But like even like the conversation of the success of the very already established Black theater is not had. All that we hear is like minstrel. How does minstrel still like tie into burlesque, or like how does that happen? Like we discussed that in class, and then we even go into the ballroom. And I know you're a big Madonna fan, and I know that you and me have different ideas about Madonna.
But I'm aware of where ballroom originates, and yes.
So Crystal of Asia, like when I tell people, I was like, you want to see somebody read somebody for filth, watch
Watch the Queen
and watch Crystal of Asia cut somebody with words, face, and in. Also, I am for sure that Amy Winehouse took the makeup from Crystal of Asia and just put it in her face and the hair as well. But like that's the thing. Even when we're talking about the pansy craze back in the day in the 1800s, we were talking about when it was in vogue to cross dress.
Yeah.
And there was no problem about it. And like that's the thing, like we go through these times, like when even like one of the things that Dr. Lady J Davenport talks about is Dorian Corey a lot in the Pro Box review and all the full, all that. Like they have taught me so much about queer nightlife and how that related to burlesquing, how that created all these things that are now so popular, like voguing on stage for burlesque is popular. And whenever I see some girl stock walk and I'm like, breathe, spell in Spanish, it's okay. Walks away. But it's like, that's the thing. Like once you take this class, you have to like, or this workshop or this thing, you better be ready to look at certain things and be like, because I've even had those moments, like when we talked about Princess Lahoma, which is an indigenous woman, burlesque legend, who actually wore her regalia in pictures. People are like, oh, she was not a real indigenous person. And I was like, yes, she was. Here you go. Like, it's wild to me that some people don't think that those people did exist in burlesque, and white folks essentially move them out so hard because either they were doing it for the sake of it, for the sake that said, my friend let me borrow this costume and they're indigenous and they let me use. No. There's Asians that there's Asian legends that I talk to them about what it felt like to always be displayed in fetishism and like thoughtfulness, and they're like, we just didn't perform there. We just didn't perform there because they treated us a certain way. We performed where we were respected, and we didn't perform in certain videos because then they'll stiff us for our pay. Right. And I was like, wow. But yeah, essentially, like even the influence of racial prejudice in historical research is not talked about at all.
Well, even when we since you mentioned Crystal of Asia, I want to mention that one of Crystal's long-lasting legacies in pop culture is that fantastic scene in The Queen. But one must acknowledge why she's saying it, because she's calling out bullshit racism in the pageant circuit that she will then completely dismantle by helping create houses in ball culture, including the House of LaBeija, that will not only address, dismantle, and decolonize essentially this sort of trajectory that pageants were having in drag culture, to completely completely changing that perception and acknowledging what we now see in things like Paris is Burning and in Pose, which are white creations. We must say, yes, they had POC and Black involvement. However, Paris is Burning was directed by a white woman. Pose was created by a white man. And therefore, it's people only want to. I see the thing, especially with Crystal, is that people want to have fun with the language. Though her makeup was not looking fine tonight, but they don't want to necessarily address why she was having that rant, that statement against white supremacy. But then what she did with it.
The wonderful conversation. If you can ever interview Dr. Lady J. Davenport, I think both of you will have the best podcast ever. I will make the connect on email because it also happened to be my best friend. We just celebrated like our 13, 14 years of friendship.
Mm-hmm.
I get to be friends with like the coolest people. I always tell my friends, I was just like, they may be far away, some of them may be near, but have some of the most intellectually wonderful friends ever.
Mm-hmm.
You guys massage my brain in the right way. But like that's the thing about the life in the ballroom, when you like even traced the history of pageantry.
Mm-hmm.
That was back even in the pansy craze in the 1860s
Mm-hmm.
with the notorious Oddfellow balls in Harlem. Like
these reveals
they will let people compete. People of color compete, but they would never win. They would never win. And it was almost the same now still in pageantry, in some pageantry. And I myself involve myself in drag pageantry and burlesque pageantry. Like I do competitions as a Latinx person and very visible Latinx person, because like a lot of people are like, well, like, I don't know. I was like, no, everybody knows that I'm Mexican. I either announce it or you can tell, or by everywhere I go, because I'm not gonna, but like a lot of people leave out Latinx people from ballroom culture, and that was including LGBTQI rights, because when I talk to people, I was like, if you're going to talk about Marsha, you're going to have to talk about Sylvia Rivera, as in the same voice, in the same step, in the same moment. You're going to have to talk about Stormy, they were Puerto Rican, and then you're going to have to talk about all these different Latinx people that have been in the movement, because you can't erase the people that were there. And that's the thing, like a lot of people want to grab and take what they want from history, but if you're not talking about one, you're essentially being a historical oppressor. You're choosing to go ahead and leave somebody out. And that's what I keep telling people. I was like, a lot of us have conjoined, like a lot of our communities, Asian, Latino, POC, LGBTQIA, like have conjoined forces to stay alive. Because most of the sources, which I loved World Famous Bob, they work a lot with LGBTQIA elderly. But like they talk about
Sage.
how,
yes.
Yeah, Sage. They talk about the verbalization of our stories being essentially passing down by story in a verbal context, because a lot of that stuff was being destroyed by very many people in the back in the day, and still current book burnings that are happening, which I miss when we were just burning makeup palettes from problematic makeup trend people.
She's a born again Christian now. Did you hear?
Oh my God! Oh Jesus Christ!
Well,
quite literally.
The thing also about with Sylvia Rivera, is she's often quieted by folks because she was mouthy and she demanded respect and acknowledgement. And sadly, and like one of the reasons that Marsha I think is somewhat more palatable is she's smiling on almost all the photos that we see, this bright beaming smile, flowers in the hair, gorgeous. But one of the reasons we never got to see, there's not a lot of footage of Marsha being mouthy, is because she was probably murdered. Like
she was likely murdered, and a lot of people don't talk about that.
Yeah,
when I look at people, they're like, well, Marsha just died in her old age, and I'm looking at them like they're stupid.
No, she was found in the harbor.
I was like, she was found floating.
Yes.
She was murdered, likely. Yeah. It's likely. And there was very few people that are still looking to go ahead and get her justice. And like Silvia Rivera was found, like, I hate saying things in English Spanish, but like Silvia Rivera was found homeless.
Yeah.
In New York, and still trying to survive. This person that my favorite speech of Sylvia is when she went off at Pride.
Yes.
It's like, I have sacrificed so much for gay liberation.
Yes.
That is my favorite speech today, like today years long. It's the same up there with Crystal of Asia. But like it's this situation, I think, that people don't understand, that we're trying to just redirect the narrative. Redirect the narrative to the voices that are constantly being suppressed, that being judged, taken down, ignored, put away, question, and also we're questioning our resources. Like, as a person that has a ton of books and a lot of historical research, a lot of people don't believe that I actually, like, for some reason they think that I'm not smart. And I was like, little did you know, I'm gonna stop downplaying that I'm smart, guys. I have a brain. It's not just in my chest, it's in my head. But like, actually I got called out a lot by people. It's like, stop pretending to not be smart, because people know you're smart. It's very obvious, Bella. And I was like, let me live my fantasy.
We do tend to shrink ourselves. Like, folks in marginalized communities, and I know I only contain a multitude, but I had this moment where even in burlesque, we are meant to not take our flowers. I have to say, I was at a festival. I did very well. I had an excellent performance, and I walked off stage, and two people were sitting in the performer area, main attraction, and Egypt Black Nile, and they said, "Great job." And I started to do my shoulder head into like, "Oh, thank you." Like, and main attraction was like, "No, don't do that." And we have to remind ourselves it is okay to say, you know what, I did fuck up that stage. Absolutely.
That's the thing. I think that's the other thing, like varying success. And that's where I tell people, I was just like, because I'm questioning sources, because I'm like questioning racial prejudice in history, the hill in this specific talk, the hill that I'm going to die on is that Josephine Baker was far more popular and far more influential than Miss Rosalie. By far. And I use that example because, like, they were active in the same years. And yet
Rosalie's not even the star in her musical.
Exactly. It was her mother. So, like,
she's not even the star in her own biopic.
But how many freaking books do we have? Like, I can look over here and I have 7 of Rose and 4 of Josephine. One of them is her own autobiography, but it was all in French, so I had to go ahead and like translate that to English, which was fun. I could have translated into Spanish, but apparently, like, you know, ship has sailed. But like, when we do a historical assessment comparison of both of them in the class, we talk about essentially the reason. I tell people is like, can you tell me why is the reason that this person that I mentioned and this person I mentioned, like, and I don't say names on who's what. I was like, who do you think is who? And people are like, oh, like they're like, what? Like, oh, this is Rose. No, this is Josephine. And a lot of people get it wrong. A lot of people want to say that they're like, oh, the spy was, you know, Miss Rose. I was like, nah. When I tell them everything that Josephine Baker did, crackerella.com. Like, they're sitting there going like, what? And I was like, and I said very loudly in the class, I was like, so tell me why Josephine Baker was not treated as she should have been. And it's quiet. It's dead quiet. It's always the one POC student or the very shy, like, you know, like white person taking the class going like, because she was Black. This is always what it happens, because she was Black. Like, why is that a question? Yeah, because she was Black. Because she was fucking Black. Like, duh. That's why one was more successful than the other. And like the other comparison, actually, in the Feuding Fan Dancers, Leslie Zemeckis talks in a way about the mental health of Faith Bacon in the unfortunate life that she had, and the palatability and accessibility that Sally Rand had. And the, you know, who's the fans of kind of thing. Like, everybody's trying to like be like, we created it. My favorite quote from Joe Welling is like, don't ever say you're the first in something. Not gonna go well. But like, that's the thing when I start talking about even the fan dance in this, it's Asian.
Mm.
And it was like popularized in other like forms, even like the historical accuracy of some of the shows that we watch. We all love Bridgerton, and we definitely do not watch it because of the shirtless people in them.
We watch it because of the gloves.
The gloves. The gloves were dirty. Take them off. But like that's the thing. Like even the historical accuracy of some of the costuming and some things that we have seen in the dramas are not correct. So like this is the thing. Like I go into holes, impossible holes of documentaries, books. Like I sit there, and actually one of the YouTubes that I love, that I watch almost obsessively, gosh, what's her name? She's a Black YouTuber. They're intellectual media. Yeah. So they actually did one on Burlesque and Shakedowns, but like they're always doing Black centered like historical accounts and situations to what they're doing, to history. And I love sitting there doing my makeup and listening to her. I love watching what she does. She's freaking iconic. The thing is, when we're talking, like going back to burlesque stuff, like we're never gonna talk about the Lottie the Body and what a fucking cyclone she was. We're not going to talk about Tongolele and talk about, like, a lot of people's like, yeah, she's a Mexican dancer. I was like, she was born in Washington. Her dad was Mexican. They had to go ahead and move, and Tongolele didn't want to go into theaters, so they went to Mexico, and that's where she got into it, and being a rumbera, which is also known as a vedette, which is also known as a burlesque performer. But, like, we're not going to talk about Sumun Ki also, because, like, a lot of people are like, wait, there's Chinese and Korean people and Japanese people in Mexico. That's the other thing. I was like, did you ever hear about the Chinese Exclusion Act? Where do you think they went? Where do you think people were trying to escape the internment camps of the 1940s in the US? They went to Mexico. And guess what large communities we have in Mexico? There's a reason why a lot of things to me are so normal. When I came up here, I was like, rice noodles? Yes, please. And people's like, how do you know what this is? It's so excited for it to be in Mexico. I was like, what are you fucking talking about? This is pho. Also, they kept calling it pho, and I was like, should I correct them, or am I just like speaking different languages? But like, I was like, hello. But like, that's the thing. I also include in this class. There's also a ton of other resources and historians to follow, because my colleague Andrea Machuca in over, I think she's in South America. I can't remember what country at this very point, because it's been a very long weekend, because we're recording this after like what I like to call burlesque Christmas, which is Halloween season. The weekend of shows of doom. But they do also like Vedette history and stuff, and of course Roberto Gigi Holiday. But like when we start giving a history course, my hope is essentially this leads to an accessible course that any teacher can purchase online and just teach it. Like, I'm giving you all the tools, you can't fuck it up. But I want to say this about Lottie Body, because we keep talking about her, right? She was in the Eden in Detroit, the most infamous Black burlesque bar. The Rail also. I can't remember the full name of that one. She studied SoCal, Chichi, Calypso, and other various Cuban dancers. She assisted in Motown and making sure that Motown became the movement that it was. She essentially was a Detroit ambassador. And if you go to Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, they have a huge picture of her. As soon as you walk in, it's like, bam, the whole wall, top to bottom, in the ceiling. But like things like that in her life, she was not giving her flowers till after. Like, Black dancers, of course, gave her flowers, along with Miss Sally and everybody. Like, everybody that knew of them gave them flowers. But like, why we were not writing 50 books about this woman.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, the sweetest person, which was Barbara Young. Oh my God. I love Barbara Young. Or Noelle Toy, which essentially ended up like moving into real estate because of typecasting in Hollywood. One thing that also we discuss in this class is the comparison to their white counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
You would have never said the other Sally Rand.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you wouldn't have called Sally Rand the other fan dancer or like the Faith Bacon of fan dancing.
Right.
They would call Noelle Toy
the other Louis St. Cyr. Yeah.
Essentially like what was it? This specific thing that they would call her. I'm trying to remember. They would say that she was the Asian or the like I can't remember what the word is. I probably like it's probably for a reason, but it's essentially the Asian Sally Rand or the Sepia Rosalie. That's what they used to call Lottie the Body. But like that's the thing. Also, like when we were talking about specifically, I want to talk about this. Trans people in burlesque, queer people in burlesque, you were surrounded. You were surrounded by gays. You were surrounded by trans women, trans men. You were surrounded by gender non-binary people because gender non-binary wasn't a thing over there. It doesn't mean that it didn't exist. You were surrounded by the gays, theys, and the goyles.
Mm.
There was such a tunnel of protection of each other. It was fierce because you had to keep each other safe. So the fact that it was not when I did a class with LGBTQIA legends of burlesque, and like that was a lower draw than I thought it was going to be because I was just like, you know, let's talk about some LGBTQIA icons, but like there wasn't a lot of people coming into it, and I prepared a lot for this class, especially talking with Dr. Lady J, because even talking about the research that's out there for historical drag is there, but they even argue with each other because a lot of people wanted to say that Mr. Dorsey was the one that coined it, and it wasn't, because we see like other, you know, like other points over here that somebody else is making. So it's like a guesstimation of historical content, and there's so many historians coming up, and it's not to discredit them, it's just like a lot of them will argue to prove not that they're wrong, but it's not the source, it's not the strain. But drag wasn't really used even as a term till later, and her dissertation is available online at, I believe their website is the Lady hold on, Lady J,
the onlyladyj.com.
onlyladyj.com. If ever anybody would listen to this wants to read an amazing dissertation, read Dr. Lady J's dissertation. They graduated from Case Western University, which was a miracle. But like when we were doing research to this, when we were starting to talk to people, like La Veneno became very known in the last couple 2 years because of the show that was done for La Veneno. And it was somebody that was very normal in our lives. Like that was normal. We knew she was trans. We didn't face us Mexicans or Latinos. Like we didn't care. But like Ajita Wilson is another one. The other one that we were talking about is like Rita Atlanta was another one. Also like Rika Cortez was a lesbian. Satan's Angel, we know she was a lesbian. Josephine Baker was bisexual. She was known to keep female partners, and nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about Gladys Bentley, or I
talked about it with Madam E in our recent episode, where she discussed the fluidity backstage.
Yeah, like Ethel Waters, like Sarita
Bessie
got
Smith,
in so much freaking trouble for cross-dressing with her wedding night act. It was ridiculous. But that's the thing, like I'm so used to seeing LGBTQIA people on stage since I started that it has never been anything different, anything of question everything, because essentially, like, yeah, did I have a burlesque mom? Yeah. Did I debut with a burlesque mom? No. It was me and a drag queen at a goth bar. You know, like drag has been a part of my life for as long as I've known it, but like it's is this thing like it's being raised by wolves but with rhinestones and little sharper claws, and I think that's what I have a little thicker skin in the game so I can stay on it. But like nobody wants to like even in Behind the Burlesque You, they would talk about how there was a person, a gentleman that was gay, and he was a paratrooper, and he definitely looked like a paratrooper, but he made the most gorgeous woman, and he was dancing in the back of the line because he was as tall as the other girls. Like, and some of those were dolls. If you do not understand what the word doll means as transgender, doll is something.
Worship the dolls. Yes.
Yeah. We worship the dolls. We are here for the dolls. The dolls are everything. But like, even going back to when we're talking about transgender people in burlesque, a lot of people are very fixated in woman or man. Some of them don't want people to know that they were trans. They just want to go ahead and pass this on for the rest of their life. Some of them. Other ones will go ahead and tell the world that they were. And just to have some sort of representation, I think that's what happened with Marinka, that she didn't want to go without properly like telling people their truth and what they had to go through. And going through not only like migration, the necessity of escaping Cuba, coming to the US, finding protection and finding spaces and who she could trust for them to know, because we're all in very close quarters in dressing rooms, like people are going to find out. But that's the messed up part, because that was the argument that a lot of people, like these transphobic people, used, and they're still transphobic in case anybody was wondering. The arguments used were so dumb, like they were so dumb. They were dumb, that, in lack of a better word, because they were unfounded, because they were historically unable to have a quick Google search to find figures like us in burlesque. Like there was so much out there that's easy research. It's time consuming, but you could have,
you're referring to the 2003 Royal Court of the Burlesque Hall of Fame, of course.
2023, yeah.
Yeah. And I discussed this also with Desiree Demore about it, and we came to a conclusion that not only was it a lot of the argument was jealousy.
Yeah.
But also so much jealousy wrapped up in fear of something being taken away when all people were doing was having more. There's the concept of scarcity is, and I've also, this is also a recurring topic on the pod, being so prevalent and insidious within burlesque is, there's only so many gigs. Oh, we can only hire so many people. Oh, there's only so much money to go around. Oh, there's only so much this. And like, it gets inside of us and it creates like these goblins within us that say, well, then you can't also have that. Because if I can't be promised that, and that's A, fucked up, and B, wrong. And especially when it's in reaction to a celebration of bursting through ceilings, of recognizing that it's a powerhouse of entertainers who were bestowed these
literally
titles, not took them, but were bestowed. The concept of
there was no way that Randy was not going to be up there, because that act is so. The first time I saw that act, we have hired them in Cleveland to do their Come Sail Away act.
Yes.
And we were at Sexapalooza and one other universities here. And he did that act at the Sexapalooza in front of all these university students. Let me tell you, thank God I went before him, because, or no, I went after him, either one, but like the whole room was in awe. Every time everybody sees that act, they're just like dead, and like ran when the fans go together. Oh my God, it's
just like a lack of nuance to not even just raise to your feet and say, thank goodness this is out here.
Exactly, because it's out there, it's cheeky, and pun intended, and it's innovative. But like, here's the thing of what I think.
This is Victor Devon, and it is time for you to submit your video for consideration. The Silver Tusk Awards is presenting a brand new category for 2024, Favorite Video Performance. You can submit a finished burlesque video of any style, any type, whether it's a one-take wonder, whether it's edited up, if it's music video style, whatever. It can be a freshly made video, or updated from a previous one, and it can even be a video made from the before times, during lockdown, or whatever. You send it to us, and it will go on the ballot for Favorite Video Performance. The finals not only will be featured during the show and be voted on for the final winner, but each of them will get $125 for the broadcast rights. Go to silvertuskawards.com for more information and to fill out the form. Thanks!
We are all, and I think this started with all that stupid little pink pussycat hats. But historically, when you're talking to me, obviously I'm going to be like a historical thought person.
Mm-hmm.
Women's suffrage movement was not just about, it was not about liberating everybody. It was about liberating white women.
Mm-hmm.
Because Black, Latino, and other people could not vote till later, way later. And it was like, they co-opted the red lipstick because red lipstick was seen bad in history. There's a reason that I wear red. But red lipstick was seen bad in history and only worn by, sex workers and stuff like that. And then it was co-opted by this movement and made into this
color.
Into this color of feminism. And I didn't even know where the fuck pink came from because and I'll find out later after I Google, but it's this ideology of of having that one thing belongs to one group of people is almost the most it's just the most asinine things to think as far as art forms go, as far as burlesque goes. Don't start being but Bella said, no. You can't take POC art away from POC people, period. But the demand that burlesque only belongs to white cisgender feminists, mind-boggling. And I know nobody can go ahead and see the way that my eyes are rolling to the back of my head, and it actually gives me a small,
it's implied.
freaking heart attack. But it's just what a boring world do y'all live in that you don't want to fucking share? And this is the thing, that scarcity mindset was made by white women. It was made by patriarchy. That scarcity ideology is the thing that we're trying to eradicate with these workshops, these classes, this information going to other people, because there was never a scarcity. Right. There's not a scarcity of customers. Are you trying to go ahead and get a hold of new customers? Because a lot of people don't see burlesque as an industry business still. And I think that's one of our biggest troubles. Seeing as an industry business is going to be needed for us to move forward, because I feel like we're on the brink of moving forward and then we fall back. And then we're on the brink again and then we fall back. And when I tell people, it's just I'm not pressed that I'm not the only show in my city. I want there to be more burlesque shows. I like how people are oh no, Bella doesn't want, no. I need there to be more burlesque shows, because those burlesque shows are finding new patrons that happen to take a chance on that show. Yeah. They become fans of the genre, of the art, and they go to everybody else's show and spend money everywhere else, hoping that they get to see their favorite entertainer, they get to find something new or try something new. My favorite line, the Lakota Shakar says, shout out to House of Shakar, McDonald's didn't ask for permission of Burger King to go into business. Go into business. Do whatever you need to do. Do it right. Don't mess it up. Obviously, not everybody can be a good producer. Not everybody can be a good performer. A lot of performers are not good producers. Learning to be a producer within itself is a whole nother box of cake that
series of jobs.
I've been trying to figure out how to get the recipe right on it, because it changes all the time. Because not only is it you're producing a show, you're also a business owner, a business engine that's trying to find more people to come to essentially your business to spend money on and to do all these things in. And it has to be almost the perfect mix to get it to rise. And it's one of these ideologies that people say there's not enough space. There is enough space. There's a lot of space on the top, on the bottom, in the middle, all around. You can slide down the pole up and all around, like, like we always do on stage. Honestly, we can we can literally all exist by and also the audience doesn't give a shit what drama is going on. They came to watch a show. They came to get away from the drama, from what's going on in other places. When there's LGBTQIA people in the show, you notice. When there's people of color in the show, you notice. When the diversity of your customers is as good as on stage, you notice. And that gives you so much more ability to be in other places and provide to other people. But this scarcity mindset, I think what ended up happening is a lot of people, especially after the pandemic, and I know that I was there and I was very public about it, because once you take me out of the stage, I start crying. Like it's almost like an emotional attachment I have to the stage. It just, those 5 minutes, I really do believe I'm alone for 5 minutes up there. Like it's just between me and my mom, me and God, that's it, or whatever higher power sky daddy you have that day. But like, is this ideology that you're being removed, you're being erased, you're being passed over. The new guard is here, the new kids are here, and it's supposed about ushering those new kids forward and being like, fucking good, because I didn't have those opportunities, versus God, fuck, damn it, they don't know how it was, and I should have that before they did, because I used to be that person. Confession time, accountability time. I used to be feeling like that person, that, oh, why do you have it easier than me when I had to go ahead and pave this way for myself, and now you're walking on it. And it was one of my indigenous elders that said that there's a nickname that some of my indigenous elders have for me, and it was one that I had when I was little, and it's terremoto, which is an earthquake. Some of us are meant to shake the sand, to shake the earth, to cause the change, to allow people to walk through the doors. And that is more powerful of the understanding that you are leading with purpose versus self-righteousness. And I was just like, okay, fuck me up. fuck it up for me. And I've been so lucky to have guidance from my elders and other people. Like the first time I met Joe Weldon, I cried. The day I met Stephanie Blake, and she will tell you, I turned around because she was there for tech and I was volunteering, and I was like, hello to Time Award winning burlesque icon and star Stephanie Blake. And I dated the years and stuff. Like I cry when I meet legends. Put me next to Trent Reznor, I'm fine. Put me next to a legend of burlesque, I'm eyes weeping, like I'm just like, move. I need to talk to this old random lady that you don't understand anything about. But that
old random lady.
Well, that's what they're gonna think it is, because I moved somebody once in a casino that was well known just to go hug one of our legends, and I was like, excuse me. Grabs. I was like, why are you like, but I'm this person. I was like, I don't give a fuck who that is. That's a legend of burlesque, and that's more thoughtful to my mind than yours. And that came to the what burlesque, and that, then I brought him to Jesus, stripper Jesus, but biblically accurate stripper Jesus. Yes. But like, that's the thing. This scarcity mentality of being left behind is there because of ageism, is there because of patriarchal ideology, of white supremacist ideology, that once you get to a certain age, you're an old maiden, that once you get to a certain time, or like, you were just meant to just go and disappear like Greta Garbo, quietly fade away. It's not that. Like, the kids want the stories. The kids want the moment. Like, unfortunately, like this person, that like these people that we were having to talk with online and had all these discourses with, themselves are enacting from trauma, and trauma from being either left behind, being not enough, being not fortuitous enough to have certain things. They're enacting on that trauma and taking it out on people that didn't deserve it, especially like the way they took it out on Moscato Sky. That's who I was just like, they handled this with the amount of grace. And I was like so concerned also about Samsonite and like, like, and Randy, because here they lay doing something historical. And then boom.
Suddenly someone who doesn't need to voice it adds an asterisk.
It's almost like intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts. But like in the end of the day, everybody wants to be Queen of Burlesque, right? Everybody wants to be Miss Exotic World. Everybody wants to be everybody wants to be acknowledged, celebrated, and talked about. But in the same sense of like Burlesque 50 and other things that we've been talking about lately, we're all walking different paths. None of those paths, may they be together, may they be going and then coming, may they be more difficult than others, is our path to take. We are not to take somebody else's, what is like something that's given to somebody else. You cannot ever take that from somebody. And I know that through like my ancestral like discovery of my decolonization and my de-assimilation and all this, like, you know, therapy that I have to take after losing my mom and all that stuff, my brain just clicks differently now. It's all this ideology that we just want to be enough. And some people see those things as the things, if I do that, I'm going to get the love of this. Or maybe people will notice me if I do this. But what I asked when we were sitting down talking with a bunch of people, I really sat down and said, I was like, well, what do you do? Plain question. What do you do? What do you do for the burlesque community in the world and the Fool? Besides produce a show, besides like being booked and busy in multiple shows, what do you do for our burlesque industry? Do you make sure that there's scholarships for people of color? Do you make sure there's space for people of color? Do you make sure that there is work being done for history or Burlesque Hall of Fame? Do you write to the legends every year for the Christmas cards? By the way, the Christmas cards is open. Go write a legend. There's 70 something. You should sign up and send them some Christmas cards. They love them. Trust me. They will write you back, and it's the most cutest thing ever. It is. I die every year. I send like 400 Christmas cards. Speaking of, I will send you one. But that's the thing. Like, to be honest, what do you do? Have you sat down and figured out, besides sharing your art with the world and with your friends, have you thought about what you do for those around you to make this industry better? Besides being in the industry for X amount of years, besides being a, you know, what do you do?
Yeah.
Because honestly, like, if you don't do anything, you essentially want to go ahead and be part of that circle jerk of people that is being celebrated for mediocrity. And I'm not saying that your art is mediocre. I'm just saying that maybe you need to go ahead and make a self-investment of realizing where your career is going, what you can give to the people that are coming before you, and how you can lay this foundation to be something that is going to be there years after you're gone. Because right now we're talking about legacy work. And if there's one thing that, God forbid, because it's Halloween and a fucking eclipse, we never know, God forbid, when I'm gone, I want to make sure that I leave this behind for somebody to never be forgotten or feel like they were never seen, because somebody saw something and took the time to be like, here's somebody like you. Look, there's somebody like you on stage. That's what I feel OEF is. That's what I feel our burlesque shows, including burlesque are. That's what I feel this kind of decolonizing burlesque is. That's what I feel your podcast is. That's why I feel all this other stuff that's going there. That's why I'm collecting all this history and rescuing it. And you know what? You know what my thank is? Like, my thank you is when I'm sitting, enjoying my time off, giggling to myself, finding stories that nobody ever found, like, and seeing little snippets of things. I love that. That's my payout. Like, literally sitting there reading something and giggling at myself. I feel like that's my payout. I have a wonderful family. Thankfully, I have amazing people around me. But when I'm alone doing historical research, you know, like, I find these little nuggets in time that I don't know if they were meant for me to find or something, or just rediscover, or like just pictures to, like, I've touched something that Sally Rand has touched, that was enough for me to feel special. I met a legend. That was enough for me to feel special. That is my gratitude, those little small moments that I obviously am sharing them here with you right now. And sometimes I share them on my Instagram and social medias. But like, there's some things that I have learned not to share certain things that happen in my research that I find that I just keep to myself, because those are my little rewards. Those little moments in time that it's just me and that artifact or that thing or that discovery. And I was like, I'm thankful for the time that I've had to see this. And sometimes I just send it to somebody. Sometimes I just take it to myself or speak it out loud to my mom in heaven, be like, oh, look what I found, but it's just a thing. I hope that people consider that feeling enough is something in us that we have to fix. Feeling worthy is something in us we have to fix. And it's never something to go ahead and redirect in trauma to somebody else, because historically, look at what's happening. We're repeating history. We are eradicating and erasing our own history, rewriting it in the wrong way to satisfy who? Because trust me, there's going to be another one of me. There's technically two. Two of me. One that is 20 has been watching her whole life how this industry operates, that eventually will enter the industry. I'm traumatizing you times two. And then my son that's going to eventually come in this industry. God knows how, but they're going to know, and they're going to be like, no, my mom. So I'm traumatizing you generationally in a good way. So I'm going to be like, this is the book I wrote. But that's the thing. When we want something to be changed, we have to be the change to see it. I just think since the pandemic, we have been so beaten to think that we don't matter when we do. Each of us individually, every way. I see the worth in everybody. Even the people that like Burlesque the movie.
You're not bad people.
You're not bad people. We do stand for Stanley Tucci, which I did not know he was not gay. Yeah. And now I feel like I have a chance.
Oh, he's a delight. He's an absolute delight.
He knows how to cook.
Yes.
Oh my God. Yes. I'm almost here sitting like, I may get a divorce. But Stanley Tucci, if you're here, let's call me.
He's there. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, but it's still part of what we do. But I feel like if we go out there and be like, and we all push at the same time, in the same way, in the same effect, things are going to change. We're not going to change for the better. We're going to end up stagnant and sitting there, and just people are going to lose interest, and it's going to be the same cycle over and over again. How about we break the cycle, break the abuse? Let's go ahead and break generational trauma in burlesque and start teaching about everything and everybody, because now people that status. That's a perfect example. The status that Pearl Noir posted about when she won Queen of the New Orleans Festival, Queen of Burlesque of the New Orleans Burlesque Festival. Was it called, or was it?
I believe that was it. Give me a moment.
Yes, it was. It's not Teaser Fest, which.
No, it was. Sorry, folks at home. We're doing this is why research is important. We're doing it in real time. She won the first Queen of Burlesque in New Orleans, in NOLA, in New Orleans.
Yeah. The first Queen of Burlesque, and she was against Catherine Delish and her protege, and a Black woman. When in New Orleans, you would think that would be completely not accepted. She was swept under the rug. I like how she was saying in there that Coco Electric had to go talk to the producer, Rick DeLup, about it. And then another person that was part of this whole situation, I'm this old that I remember this. That Jeez Louise, when they spoke against what was going on in that festival, and they almost got eradicated from the freaking space of the planet because they were speaking up. And that's the thing. That's the erasure we want to end, because even erasure now with Real Savant, and we have other people that are Jesus, even following, people forgot that she won Teaser Fest. She's Teaser Fest queen. She's New Orleans queen. And people forget about that. People forget about like we were just it feels like it was a long time ago, but it was the remember the Hotline show that was produced by Bodley Suit and
Hotline
variety of other
Bling.
people.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I was talking to people about that, and people are like, "Oh yeah, oh yeah," and I was like, "Really?" It was too many historical events since then, but since then, that still happened. Like this is still worth writing about.
Yeah.
Like specifically, also finding jackets on Temu, which I may or may not have gotten into because of you, and you need to be sponsored by Temu. At this point,
I hide my face on
too.
the podcast. Yes. What can I say? And they will text you that they will blow your phone up too with
they
codes
have
and
very
oh
much
my
so.
God.
And I've enjoyed every moment of it because I've I've gotten a couple things. Thank you so much for the plug. I hope that they sponsor We Burlesque the podcast. But yeah, essentially that's why the class is here. I just want to hopefully help ending erasure in our scene and for everybody to have a moment of self-discovery and self-ideology and moment of let me check myself. Let me go ahead and like try to go ahead and learn about this and then spread that knowledge to somebody else. Especially like if it's a book that you can buy to a fellow burlesque performer, do it because they want to learn more. If it's like a podcast you can make accessible to somebody, send it. Like if it's a YouTube video you found. My favorite is when people tag me on the Selena memes with the little girl with the Yolanda Piñata. The Yolanda Piñata, like that's my favorite. Like tag alright people in like podcasts and news and articles. Like even if they have it, you don't know. But like that's one little thing that you're doing to help your own community keep up with proper teachings of burlesque and now neo burlesque, which is kicking 30 years in there. And when I told somebody, I was like, oh yeah, we've been at it for 30 years in neo burlesque, and they looked at me puzzled, and they're like, and this is where we're like, you're not teaching real history. It's since the burlesque the movie. And I looked at them like somebody was there that stopped me physically from probably getting in jail. Because I was just like slowly coming forward. I was like, my hands are going back, and I was like, pour it in, and my friend is like, come here.
It's the confidence that's the most appalling.
Yeah, it's the confidence that was most appalling. And like they thought the burlesque was like invented by Christina and whatever. And I was like, do you know who Aristophanes? Because everybody keeps talking about their like the Roman Empire, and I don't understand what that means. Because it scares me because the Roman Empire essentially just stole Greek culture and renamed it. Yeah, and also killed a bunch of people, committed genocide, and it was like really, like a bunch of religious people. But like, why are we talking about Roman Empire? Was this their own Roman Empire? Do I need to find out what does that mean?
It's too much. That's another podcast. That's another episode.
That's another perfect. But yeah, essentially it's just like I want people to feel like they can see themselves in history. I want people to feel that they can be in history. A couple of historians also that I failed to mention was Puxaplenty with Fat History and Burlesque. Iconic. And then we're talking about Chris Harder, is it?
Yeah, Chris Harder has Showboys, which goes into the storyline of not only how it's involved in drag, but also in exotic dance as well, because you cannot remove the stripper effect in the stripping.
And then the Desiree D'Amour with the ranch toxic
ranch undressing. Yes,
dress undressing. That was
we need like a burlesque PBS. You know what it is? That's what we need. That's what we need.
God, burlesque PBS.
Yeah, I may have just unleashed like the Babadook there, but I feel like it is.
Baba, it's late. You just released like a monster. Also, I think you already have the resource out there, but you saved my congestive everything because people were saying, I was like, where's that
Ah,
list of festivals? So I was like, I meant to get to that, but you
yeah.
see, you did it. So now it's what website is it?
It is burlesquefestival.info. And you can go, and if you are running a festival, you can submit and get listed. If you were curious about, it's both listed by location as well as month. So you can click on January 2024 and see what is coming. Now, many of these, this is another important part. These festivals do not cease to exist as soon as applications close. If you like these people, it's another reason I'm trying to be as transparent as possible while also giving myself space to not get that invested because I have a life outside this house. But putting these producers' names out there so you can say, okay, this is the person who's running that. This is where it's going to be, and you can say I should support this in some capacity, because you can't just say, well, I didn't get in or I missed applications. Well, fuck them. Let's try again next year. No, if you're around, go see it. Go support.
Listen, I think a lot of people don't understand that rejection is going to be the hardest thing that you're going to have to deal with in your lifetime. And here's the matter of fact of it all. That's what I tell people. I was like, being Burlesque Top 50, it's great. I love it. Please go ahead, do the thing. But like, it doesn't get me into festivals. It doesn't get me into a lot of different things. And to me, it's just like applying to festivals is almost my own little way of being like, hey, here's my name. Use the money wisely. Have fun this year. And if I get in, great. That's actually how I was thinking about it when I went to Portland for the Oregon Burlesque Festival. I was just like, because really weirdly, I applied to Teaser and other ones with the Marinka tribute, and I wasn't able to go. And I was like, what's going on? I should have been able to go. Like, what's going on? I think Marinka was that was the hand on the extra on the pot, the extra hand on the pot. But like when I went to the Oregon Burlesque, so I didn't think I was gonna get in. I got in, and I was just like, cool. Then we're off we go, and it was such a marvelous experience to be there. It was definitely weird, and I loved it. Hot dog costumes galore. Made me want a hot dog real bad. I almost walked up to Arabella and I was like, you look like the 4th of July, but I didn't. And I should have. But like that's the thing. Like sometimes you're gonna get in, sometimes you're not. Sometimes those things are not personal. None of it is personal. There's only 2 festivals that I knew. They're no longer around. That I personally participated that I knew was a personal choice from the producer. I think you know the 2 that I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But it's this thing that if I get in, great. If I don't, okay. Like I'm still supporting my friends.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still supporting my industry. I'm still supporting other people doing the thing that they want to do. And yeah, rejection sucks. But you know what? I try to look at the positive side of that. Not that I'm trying to be like toxic positivity, but to me it's just like, hey, here's my application fee, hope you have a good festival.
Yeah,
I'm trying not to get myself down, and also we are each other's worst critics and worst enemies 100%. I literally I had a tarot reading last night where they told me it's like you're your own worst enemy. Nobody can get anybody talking shit about you except for yourself.
Clocked. Knew that.
Yeah, clocked. Knew that. Be like, excuse me, I really don't need to reason. Like, don't reason with me, man. But like, that's the thing. Like, we're each other's worst enemy, and like, the resource of these festivals are very much needed, because then we can go ahead and hopefully just have it one place, go apply, go do things, and a lot of people are going overseas, which is great. By the way, if you're going overseas, look at the immigration information before you commit, that you can go ahead and travel, because some countries will not let you in if there's certain things in your record or if there's not enough money in your bank account. Have a good day. But welcome to the TikTok. But that's the thing. Like, also having this record gives historians like me a footprint of seeing how burlesque is thriving worldwide and what countries I can go ahead and have focal points or information to, because I can go ahead and get a historian up there. Be like, hey, did you know there was people of color doing burlesque over there? Here's their information. Go do a class, and like spread the news over there. And it's a share network almost. And I'm hoping to create that share network because a lot of people that worked in academia and history are so gatekeepy. I mean, a lot of burlesque.
It's part of that scarcity. It's all
scarcity doesn't exist. Our minds and patriarchy and all these other things make it exist. But trust me, there's enough audiences for everybody. There's enough gigs for everybody. Also, like, why the fuck are you not asking to be part of a show? That could be it. You probably need to send an email. It's okay.
And again, there's no promises anyway. Well, Bella, my goodness, we've covered so much
forever.
But we've barely scratched the surface. But I am looking forward to the presentation of Decolonizing Burlesque. I'll include in the footnotes the ways that people can sign up for that, and I encourage people to do so. I will double check the date, and I will see if I can make it as well. Tell the folks the best ways that they can keep in touch with you.
I'm on Instagram under Bellison, CLE as in Cleveland, on TikTok and on Facebook, and I have a website and stuff like that. So you can.
I'll include it all. It's all be there. Well, thank you again for not only chatting with me today and talking with the folks, but also being mouthy and being difficult and doing all of the things that
put that on a shirt. Send you one for free.
Folks at home, thank you for listening and being a part of it. If you want to throw some bucks at the Patreon, the link is also in the footer. And if you're listening to this on release date, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
And if you're listening to this after the release date, happy Halloween. Let's just keep
Feliz
going.
Dia de los Muertos.
Indeed. Yes, we have Riverside as our annual Dia de los Muertos this upcoming Saturday. So we'll be going to that in the park. It's a beautiful experience. Very, very cool. All right, folks. Thank you. Mwah. Be well. We Burlesque the podcast, created, developed, and edited by Victor Devon. Podcast artwork by Logan Laveau. We Burlesque the podcast cover art photography by Atticus Stevenson. Theme song, Anna 45 by This Way to the Egress, used with permission. All incidental music via Pixabay under the expectation of fair use. Please visit WeBurlesquePodcast.com for notes on this and every other episode. Follow We Burlesque and Victor Devon on just about every platform, and support the podcast via patreon.com/We Burlesque. Don't got the cash? Please follow, subscribe, and give 5 stars on every platform you can get your hands on. It really does help. All original material is owned by Victor Devon and White Elephant Burlesque Corporation. All other material is property of their respective copyright. No infringement, while likely, is intended. This episode and all episodes thereafter are in memory of Lucky Charming. Miss you, friend.